Yeah, you got it. Duncan Holder, once again, back on the airwaves. June 13th, Wednesday, Claude Verdun, your host here, Jeff Duncan and Dave DeCorbier. And once again, Larry Holder, our co-host, cohort in crime, on assignment out at Saints Camp. So it's the three amigos. We're doing a pretty damn good job of carrying this show without Larry around. I'm starting to like this big chair over here.
Yeah, of course you are. That's the lore of sitting in the king's chair.
Yes, I'm starting to like it. I like having you over there. I like having Dave. I like Dave spinning the wax on the old throwback 80s songs.
That's gonna be the only. That's gonna be one of the biggest things that we miss. Because I mean, having such a large selection of music to be able to find and just be able to add to the essence of the show is so huge. Like, people don't understand just how. I mean, at least I do. I mean, for me, the power of music has been one of the. Outside of sports, I'd have to say that music is probably the biggest thing that I'm into outside of, sports as a.
You seem like you're into a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I am.
TV, you're a pop culture monster.
Yeah, I would say I'm into a lot of stuff, but I would say the top two would definitely be sports and music. For sure.
Those are two good things. The intersection of pop culture and our society days. I know nothing about anything in pop culture at all. So
we know. We are routinely on a daily basis. We have to do these things with you.
Exactly. I need somebody to help me along. But we are not just talking pop culture. We're talking sports today, and we are mainly going to focus on the New Orleans Saints, especially during the first hour. We're going to have Larry call in from out at Saints Camp. Today is day 2 of Saints minicamp out in Metairie at the team's indoor practice facility. I think they're going indoors today. It looks like rain is on the horizon. And Larry will check in around 10:20, and then at 10:40, very excited to talk to Sean Fazan from Fox 8, who is also out at Saints minicamp. He was there yesterday and will be back again today. So we'll get Sean's input on the Saints. And I got my first glance at the 2018 New Orleans Saints yesterday. I had a couple of great interviews with Taysom Hill. My column just posted at NOLA.com. If you get a chance, check it out. It's basically anointing Taysom Hill as the heir apparent to Drew Brees. And man,
what could go wrong?
Yeah, I basically put the kiss of death on Taysom Hill with this column, but he's an impressive guy, Clyde. I had a one-on-one with him for over a half hour.
Oh, wow.
And he was really, he's a real mature kid. First of all, he went on a mission before he got to Brigham Young, so he's an older second-year player. He's about 27, 28, I think, and there's just a presence about him because he's older, I think. He just seems like a veteran already, even though this is his second year in the league, and his first really full installation of the Saints playbook is going on right now. And so he should only get better, but I'm telling you, the buzz of camp among his teammates, among the coaches, is this is the guy. And the Saints have spent about half a decade, I'd say, trying to find their future starter beyond Drew Brees. They drafted Garrett Grayson in 2015. They brought in Ryan Griffin as an undrafted free agent out of Tulane and groomed him for a couple of years before he moved on to Tampa. And they thought long and hard last year about drafting Patrick Mahomes with the number 11 pick in the first round. Now, that ended up being Marshawn Lattimore, but the Chiefs took Patrick Mahomes right before the Saints did, right before the Saints were at number 11, and they were considering Mahomes and Lattimore at that spot. If the Chiefs would have taken Marshawn Lattimore at 10, Patrick Mahomes would be on the Saints roster right now. So they've thought about this for a while, and through really a stroke of serendipity, and I document this in the column, they found Taysom Hill by accident almost. They were looking at game tape of Max McCaffrey, a wide receiver that had been released by the Packers, and saw his preseason tape and saw the quarterback throwing the ball to him, and Sean Payton was like, who is this guy? He thought it was Sean Hill. Old-time veteran guy. They've been like a journeyman. He thought it was Sean Hill. When he found out it was Taysom Hill, he was only a rookie. He said to Jeff Ireland, what don't we like about him? And immediately put in a waiver claim for him. And So they have a guy now, a young talent. Granted, he hasn't thrown a pass in an official NFL game yet, but a guy that they really like his makeup, his physical ability, and they got him basically for free. I mean, they didn't have to use a draft pick, didn't have to sign him as a free agent, basically got him off the waiver wire. And what a great story for the Saints that they're able to develop him into a future starting quarterback. So that column is up on NOLA.com. That was my focus out of camp yesterday. I didn't get a chance to look at much of anything else. Everybody was gathered around Mark Ingram. That was the storyline. Of course, Mark Ingram has come out now and said basically, yeah, I missed the offseason, but it wasn't because of my contract. It wasn't some kind of contract holdout. I was basically just wanting to work out with my personal trainer and do my own thing. And a lot of guys are doing that more and more. And we talked about it yesterday, Clyde. I think this is a trend from veteran players around the league, and I don't have any problem with it. If you don't have to be at camp this time of year, I just think it's ridiculous. I've stated that numerous times. There's way too much off-season work for NFL players. They don't need to be out there, especially guys that have been around as long as Mark Ingram. If they want to come in like Cam Jordan and be a part of the learning process or teaching process to some of the young guys, I get that. It's obviously good to have those veterans around, but as far as going through the actual practices, those guys do not have to be out there, and so hopefully this is something that keeps going that way, and more veterans choose to not go to camp because I think there's too much wear and tear on these guys' bodies anyway.
Yeah, and I guess the surprising thing, or not surprising, but one of the themes that I saw, I guess from commenters yesterday was the fact that a lot of fans are like, okay, sweet, that's what you wanted to do. Like, especially once we put out the video, his or at least part of his media availability after minicamp yesterday of him talking. Mark Ingram is a fan favorite. I think what we've seen is that you can get a lot more clout, a lot more cachet per player, depending on obviously how you connect to the fans, how the fans connect to you, how the fans feel like they can believe in you and trust you as a player. Now, granted, it's still going to stink when he's not there for the first 4 games, but I like his quote of what he said yesterday of the fact that I'm gonna own up, and the fact that I'm gonna miss these 4 games, but as soon as we hit week 5, I hope we're 4-0 and I'm ready to come back. That's huge because that shows that he's owning up to the fact that whatever happened. He's bowing up, as the team is using for their 2018 motto, bowing up and saying, yeah, I did this, I'm gonna put it all on me, but I'm still committed to this team. We still have the same goals, and I think a lot of fans are like, hey man, we still got you, you're still one of us, all these different types of comments to show that. I think fans can be very forgiving. They can be very vindictive sometimes and very they don't forget things well, but when they're on your side, even with times like this, I think a player like Mark Ingram can feel that, because regardless of whether or not the tweet yesterday about as soon as he got on the field, one of the offensive linemen hugged him. It's like you can tell that the Saints have no qualms about him missing OTAs. Just kind of wanted to do it on his own, which I think sometimes you just want a fresh change of scenery. Why not? And then clearly working him in with Alvin Kamara, looking like neither one of them lost a step in some of the raw footage that we had on our YouTube page, our NOLA.com, our Saints, New Orleans Saints on NOLA.com Facebook page. It looks like it's working out, and I think for this team, that's exactly what you need to have. Get these next 3 days in, try to get that crisp refresher of everybody being there before you shut it down on Thursday, and then before you get into training camp in late July, and then everything's full go.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it that Mark Ingram will be full go when the fall gets here. And along those lines, though, in a related kind of development, the New Orleans Saints had Tim Hightower out of practice. Of course, a veteran guy, was with the team a couple of years ago. He's in for a tryout, basically. They're going to kick the tires on a few other veterans, reportedly bringing in Jamal Charles, the former Kansas City Chiefs standout, and Terrence West, I believe, is the other veteran. And Sean Payton addressed that with the media yesterday, saying basically, yeah, we're bringing these guys in, we're going to give them a look, help us evaluate if we want to bring one back for the fall. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Get them here on the field, see what kind of shape they're in, and then you can make a decision for training camp and have them ready to go to man that spot in the first 4 games of the season while Mark Ingram is serving his suspension. Obviously, Alvin Kamara will be the main back that the Saints use, but they need someone else to share those carries, and they also need someone to share some of the load that Alvin Kamara is going to have on special teams. They don't want to have him have too many touches too early in the season. It's a long grind, and they don't want to wear out the young kids. So whoever they bring in, I think, and I assume they will bring at least one veteran into camp, will see time, I think, in the regular offense and take some of those between the tackles carries mainly and play that role. So Saints looking around the league, as we expected, for help at the running back spot in case they need veteran presence there, and some of these young guys that they have don't develop. I think they want at least an insurance policy for Mark Ingram. And Sean Payton also talked a lot about the quarterback position yesterday, how much he likes the depth chart at quarterback. I mentioned that yesterday. I think it's the best situation the Saints have had. I like Tom Savage. Now, none of the quarterbacks when I was out there yesterday, Clyde, looked very good. And I think it's mainly just because it's that time of year. You know, they've been through all these OTAs. They're into mini camp now. It's hot out. Their bodies are probably wearing down a little bit. And I just think they're grinding through these last couple of days. It happens. Same thing happens during training camp about week 3. Everybody's just worn out, ready for the season. And yesterday looked to me like the players, especially the quarterbacks, were like, all right, you know, my arm's starting to feel a little bit, and accuracy wasn't there. And obviously Drew Brees looked like Drew Brees, but the other 3 guys, J.T. Barrett, Taysom Hill, and Tom Savage, did not look like anything close to threatening Drew Brees and his position. So, yeah, it was fun to get out there. They had a nice little crowd, and the Saints back out on the practice field today, and we will talk to Larry here in about 2 or 3 minutes and get his thoughts on the New Orleans Saints. And then Sean Bazan up at 10:40, and then at 11 o'clock we'll talk a little NBA, and also College World Series is upon us, and the World Cup.
And, oh yeah, I mean, it's obviously a big day for all of us here in the North American continent, as a huge announcement before the crack of dawn this morning out from Russia. If you have not heard, the 2026 World Cup will be coming back stateside, or at least partly in stateside, but the 2026 bid was rightfully given and awarded to the United States, Canada, and Mexico for 2026. So obviously the World Cup is coming back for the first time since 1994. So this is going to be huge. So it gives, hopefully, if anything, it gives U.S. soccer fans a nice glimmer of happiness before the World Cup starts tomorrow with no U.S. team in it. But maybe we can also today, maybe we can get a little college football talk. I know we talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I would imagine a person that you've crossed paths with, and Brett McMurphy, has a nice little tidbit about college football bowls going into the 2020 season that I think may pique your interest.
Yes,
in terms of course, the bloatedness of college football bowl games going forward. But we can probably get into that too. So it's going to be another jam-packed show. It's going to be a great Wednesday. And look, man, Saints OTAs. You know, who said that this is the most boring time of year for sports? Well, I mean, it kind of is, but we still have a lot of great things to talk about.
No doubt, and we'll get to them throughout the next hour and a half. But let's take our first break, and when we come back, we'll get in touch with Larry Holder, who is out at Saints Camp in Metairie. You're listening to Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us. How funny was that? Was that screen grab of Holder?
That was awesome.
What was he doing?
I think we need to ask him about that once we get back on. That was incredible
I
timing.
don't even know what was going on there.
Beautiful
they put it
timing.
up. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's so damn funny. Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Claude Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, and our very own Larry Holder checking in from Metairie Saints Camp. Day 2 of mini camp workouts. Larry has his sunscreen on. He's got his loose-fitting clothing, and he's well hydrated, ready for another day out in the hot sun. Sir Lawrence, what's going on, buddy? All right, before we get into Saints minicamp news and what your input or insight is to what's going on the field, I got to ask, what's going on with that look you have with Drew Brees that was on the NOLA.com homepage? What was that all about? You look like somebody prodded you or gave a cattle prod to you. It's crazy. Right. It's a classic. If you haven't seen it, check out NOLA.com because Larry looks like, I don't even know what. I don't even know how to describe the look. Yes.
That's a fair assumption.
I like it. I like the look. All right, let's move on to your column because your column today, bemoan Mark Ingram for suspension, not bailing on Saints OTAs. What do you mean by that? Explain to us what you're coming from on that. 16. He says, I'm not angry with my contract. You buy that? You buying that, or what's your take on that?
Outside of that, Larry, one interesting, or at least I guess maybe more interesting than most, as an excused absence of people who weren't there outside of Cam Jordan, who we saw obviously was welcoming another child into his family, was no Michael Thomas. And obviously Sean Payton was very quick to quip that his absence was excused. But, I mean, obviously, you know, with the way he performed in OTAs, with what you guys were able to see, him not being there in terms of on the field reps, not that big of a deal, giving guys other chances to kind of shine at the position, like Ted Ginn, guys like that, or just something Saints fans should be aware of if he's not there today, possibly?
Talking to Larry Holder, co-host of Dunc and Holder, who's out at Saints minicamp, which gets ready to start in about 20 minutes. I think they take the field for the second day of their mini camp, and then they're off for summer vacation. But Larry is on the scene, and I wanted to get your thoughts, Larry, on the news that broke yesterday, right around camp time, that the Saints are going to be bringing in some veteran running backs. Tim Hightower was out there yesterday, reportedly Jamal Charles and Terrence West are going to be looked at. This doesn't surprise anybody, I don't think. It doesn't surprise you or me. How realistic do you think it is that one of these guys or more will be in camp when they open next month? All right, so Lawrence, what's on the docket for you today? What can readers look forward to seeing from you in the next day or so? All right, Larry Holder checking in from Saints Camp out in Mary. Thanks, Sir Lawrence. We'll see you soon, and if we don't see you this afternoon, we'll definitely talk to you tomorrow. Larry Holder, live from Saints Camp in Metairie, minicamp day 2 today, and we'll also be talking to Sean Vizan here in about 5 or 10 minutes about his insight and observations from Saints minicamp. First, we're going to take a break. Dunc and Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us. Yeah. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and call Sean? That's a good idea. Then we'll wrap him up and have one. Right, yeah, good call. kind of cool. I drank a little too much wine last night. I know that's shocking.
Yeah, shocking. Oh, I drank a little too much wine last night. I had a little too much
did,
coffee
man.
this morning.
Freaking Tuesday night. I can't be doing this. I can't live like this.
Huh.
All right, bud. So Cooper Manning put together a Spotify playlist of all the songs that they sang and sent it to
How does he remember that?
He and his wife did it Sunday night.
God. I have a friend who does that, and I love it. Like, every time I go to a concert, he puts together the track list. I'm like, I enjoy this.
All right, bud. Welcome back. Duncan Holder, Jeff Duncan, Claverdan, Dave DeCorbier, talking New Orleans Saints, as we often do on this program. And one person that knows the New Orleans Saints as well as anybody in town is visiting with us right now out at Saints Camp, I assume. Sean Fazan, Fox 8. Sean, you out at camp or are you off for the day? What's your status? Oh, made that trek
Awesome.
many a time. Such a nice setup out there for the media. So media friendly with that setup. All right, bud. Well, look, we just visited with Larry. Larry Holder was out at camp yesterday, as you were. I just kind of wanted to get your overall thoughts of where this team is at, heading into what will be their summer break before training camp. What do you like about what you see out at Saints Camp, and maybe what are some concerns you might have going into the offseason? What's your take on the news yesterday that the Saints are going to be bringing in some veteran running backs, Jamal Charles, I think Terrence West. We saw Tim Hightower out there yesterday. What's your take on that, and do you expect one of these guys to be on the roster when the season opens?
Hey, Sean. So, we asked this to Larry too, and clearly, we knew with Mark Ingram coming back and him kind of taking center stage because we hadn't heard from him since the end of the season, that would probably be the most interesting thing. But Michael Thomas not being at OTAs obviously is quite intriguing. Yet, like Jeff said, or Larry said, he liked a tweet from Larry yesterday saying that Tommy Lewis was doing well, and then just now, literally 2 hours ago, he tweeted out a picture that said "mood," and it's a picture of the Sean Payton, Drew Brees with President Obama after winning the Super Bowl. So clearly he's around. Clearly we know he's fine. But him not being at minicamp, same question to you as I did Larry. Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? He did well at OTAs. We know what we've got in Michael Thomas. It's not that big of a deal if he's not at minicamp. Just what are your thoughts on that? Right.
Talking to Sean Fazan of Fox 8. He was out at Saints minicamp day 2 out in Metairie. And Sean, I had a chance to spend some time in the locker room yesterday with Taysom Hill, who's a very impressive guy, very mature for a second-year player, a little older because of his missionary work that he did at Brigham Young. And look, we all know, I mean, the hype about this kid is nonstop. And I caution everybody. I remember at this time a year ago, we were all writing about how Adrian Peterson was the greatest thing of all time, and the players were all hyping him. But it seems legitimate with Taysom Hill, and I think he's probably the most talented young guy that the Saints have brought in at that position, maybe since I've been here. I mean, if you think back to when they brought in Chase Daniel, they obviously tried to groom Ryan Griffin. He went on to Tampa Bay. They drafted Garrett Grayson. And we know they were looking at Patrick Mahomes a year ago in the draft, but this guy, I think, has a chance. What's been your impression of him so far? He didn't look that great to me yesterday, but I think there also might be just at that point at camp where they're just, all the quarterbacks are tired and having dead arms. Right. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense too. I mean, you got a guy, you can work on his his footwork, as some of the things that would lead to more accuracy. But there's no rush to anoint him, the eventual successor, because Drew Brees is under contract for a couple more years. You bring in Tom Savage, it's a guy I know they like as well. So it's really a good situation. I think the quarterback room here and the depth chart that they have is as good as any time that I've seen it in the Brees Peyton era. They don't have that really seasoned vet, but they got a lot of potential there behind Brees. That's Sean Fazan, Fox 8, out at Saints minicamp, giving us great insight on the 2018 New Orleans Saints. All right, Sean, thanks a lot, buddy, and have a great time out at camp, and we'll see you out there very soon. Sean Fazan does a great job at Fox 8. All those guys over at Fox 8, really on top of the local sports scene, especially the New Orleans Saints. All right, time for another break. Sports 1280, Duncan Holder will be back in a minute. Okay, gotcha. Uh-huh. Do you know what it's about? Could I look at it during the break? All right. Got it. Yeah. You pretty much. Who's going to produce your show? Okay. Yeah, you'd be doing it double dipping kind of. Double D, double dip. Yeah, and I can help you with, there's a thing called the NFL Black Book that has all the numbers, all the information to get in touch with those guys. Yeah, I got it. I'm like burning up. 1,000 degrees in here, Clyde.
It's a little warm in here.
Yeah, it's weird. It's fine everywhere else, it seems. At least Clyde's not farting.
Unlike one of us.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, Duncan Holder. We got about 5 minutes left in this segment before the top of the hour break. and we're going to wrap up our thoughts on Saints Camp. And if you'd like to join the program, I don't think I gave out the number. I should have given that out earlier. It's 504-260-1280. Love to get your thoughts on the Saints. My crazy anointing of Taysom Hill is the next greatest thing of all time. I tend to do that sometimes. I get a little overexcited.
Overzealous?
Yes, but this kid seems like the real deal to me. And I think I mentioned it to you before. When someone has a track record of success, and let's face it, when you get to the NFL level, the professional athletic level, you've probably succeeded everywhere you've been. But when a quarterback wins everywhere he goes, to me that is a sign of, it's a predictor of the future. And Taysom Hill won a state title at Pocatello, Idaho, at Highlands High School. He went to Brigham Young, was a Heisman candidate there before being injured, and started as a true freshman. First game in, runs 68 yards for a touchdown as a true freshman, and then goes to Green Bay in his first NFL experience and basically lights up their camp. Mike McCarthy tells him in a sit-down that he earned a roster spot on the 53-man roster, but because they had a bunch of injuries on the defensive line, they couldn't afford to keep that many quarterbacks, so they tried to slip him through waivers and get him on the practice squad. The Saints pounced on that opportunity, brought him in, and since he's been here, he's done nothing but impress. So we're seeing a track record of success, and he has these intangibles, as I mentioned before, of a winner. There's just something about him. I don't know what it is. So Saints, I think, have a good one in Taysom Hill. Now he'll probably fall flat on his face in the preseason. Everybody will laugh at me. But
well, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time you're wrong. It'll only be the second time.
Maybe the third time I've ever been wrong. But what I am going to say, and Sean Fazan alluded to this a second ago, I think this preseason from the quarterback standpoint is going to be really fun to watch because, let's face it, Drew Brees doesn't need to take any snaps during the preseason. Now, he's wired that way. He's going to want to take some. But for the most part, I think they're going to give Taysom Hill all these reps, Tom Savage, a ton of snaps, and this kid from Ohio State, J.T. Barrett, they're very high on as well. And he's a guy that's had success wherever he's been. So it's going to be a fun preseason for Saints fans to watch these young quarterbacks, and they're all new. I talked to Joe Lombardi yesterday, the quarterback's coach, and he said it's refreshing for him because he's got all sponges in the room. None of them know the offense. It's making him work a lot harder because he says he's got people that don't know the system, so they're having to spend a lot more time. And Drew Brees is becoming almost like a coach as well, bringing along these three newcomers at the quarterback position.
Yeah, no, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and how you're right. And I mean, I'm just going to echo what you're saying. Is it's going to be interesting. I think the most interesting thing about this preseason will be who and how they opt to use every quarterback for the preseason games. Like, are they going to start with maybe Tom Savage in one, and then have him play the first half, maybe a quarter, and then how they go about doing all that is going to be the most interesting thing to me. But I mean, obviously, after one day of mini camp, obviously there's some good signs. Obviously Alvin Kamara looked no worse for the wear. In fact, maybe looked a little bit better than a little bit faster than he did last year. So that's obviously huge. I mean, clearly he's taken this offseason. I mean, I don't know if everybody's seen all the offseason videos of him, basically lifting an entire weight set and pulling a truck behind him. I mean, he's about as locked in as you can get, which is got to be a boon for Saints fans. Terran Armstead, it looks like he's starting to get closer to being fully healthy, and that's going to be a huge asset for the Saints coming back because, I mean, just being able to have another veteran along the line is going to be, I think, a boon just for whoever. It doesn't even matter. It's going to just be a boon for the entire team as a whole. And then, I mean, some of these young guys, I mean, obviously, that's always the idea is that how do these young talented players like a Michael Thomas, especially some of these rookies like Marshawn Lattimore and all, who go from year one to year two and year two to year three, how they go about improving on what was a breakout year. It's always that, not necessarily a sophomore slump, but like there's always going to be some kind of dip, at least partially in production, because teams are going to know how to scout you now. There's more tape on you. They're going to try to scheme for you a little bit better. But there are clearly, obviously, ways of being able to get around that because you're still a multi-talented NFL player. So it's going to be that high level of execution that I think the Saints are going to need to continue to have from the start, just to be able to say that without Mark Ingram for 4 games, they're still going to be in a position by the time they get to Week 5 and on, as being one of the top teams in the NFC, really battling for that 1 or 2 seed, and definitely continuing to be in the playoff hunt from the start of the year as opposed to much later in the year as we were last year.
And you mentioned Terran Armstead. We'll hear from Terran Armstead. We got some audio from him in the second hour. But hour 1 is up, hour 2 right around the corner, and we'll also talk a little NBA, World Cup, and College World Series in hour 2. So stay with us. Duncan Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We will be right back after the top of the hour break. Okay. I'm going to look at it right now.
It's a really hard name. Yeah, it's such a hard name, dude. Yeah. It's a really hard name to pronounce. Yeah, right? No. Hey, you got what, two minutes? Good Lord, you got a minute.
All right.
No. We were talking about the top of the hour. How
Okay.
You don't have 60 seconds for that. It's crazy.
Long enough, and that leads to serious health problems. So I decided to do something about it. I'm Simon Edinburgh, and I invented Quip, the modern electric toothbrush to help you have fresh breath, pristine teeth, and excellent oral hygiene. As a product, the brush looks, feels, and the quality of every bristle. Quip has a lightweight and sleek design with simple time vibrations and guided pulses.
Audio Larry sent from Drew Brees is not like.
Isn't great.
I can't hear it. I don't hear anything. Larry sucks.
Larry sucks.
nobody sees coming. And it's not going to happen. He won't go to Detroit. No, it's Detroit. Detroit. You put this guy on a team with Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday and start figuring out the rest of it. That's a team that was fun to watch this year. They swept through the first round of the playoffs. LeBron James will figure out a way to make Anthony Davis the MVP of the league. Anthony Davis would be the MVP. He almost was this year anyway. Would be the MVP of the NBA with LeBron, and I would love to see a conference final between Golden State and a LeBron James.
Wabba wabba. Wobble wobble. That might be somebody less hip than me. There might be one person in the city less hip than me. It's amazing. Thank you, bud.
Here's what you need to know about.
Duncan Holder back for hour 2. Jeff Duncan alongside my cohort in crime today, Clydico Clyde Verdam. You like that nickname, by the way?
It's not a grow on me, but I still don't like it.
I think it's an awesome nickname.
Of course
and
you do.
Dave DeCorbier, who I know likes the nickname.
We don't care what he thinks.
Dave DeCorbier, the host of the D League with Double D, starting next week, 2 to 4. Everyone's going to be tuned into that. I know I will be daily. I'm going to have you on. You're going to have a pod, right? I assume you'll download your pod afterward. Yeah, looking forward to that. What a great lineup Sports 1280's got going. We're in the middle of it right now, and next week it kind of alters a little bit, and it's a really great lineup of local sports talk all day long. It's the only local sports talk lineup all day in the city of New Orleans. Lots of great hosts and lots of great sports talk here. And you could never, you're right, Clive, we were talking about the other day, it always seems like you think, oh, things are going to slow down. We're not going to have much to talk about now that the NBA Finals are over. Saints Meet Camp is almost over here. And there's always something. I mean, it just seems like there's always something in this town. I never take it for granted working in the business that I'm in this city, because frankly, it's got to be the best city of its size, sports-wise, in the country. We have a sister publication, the Oregonian, that is based in Portland, Oregon. Very similar size market as New Orleans, but sports-wise cannot compare to New Orleans. I mean, what do they have? They have the Trailblazers.
Obviously the Timbers. They've got the Thorns, Portland Thorns. The
Thorns. What is
the NWSL team, the women's team.
Well, like I
women's
said,
soccer team.
they
But
can't
that's
compare to
that's
them.
big. But that's big. That's pretty big.
And they've got the Ducks and the Beavers, Oregon State, college sports. But comparing it to New Orleans with the Saints, with the NBA, with the Pelicans, with LSU, a flagship premier college football program, with Tulane University here in town, UNO, the great college sports we have, and then all the big events we have. We just had WrestleMania right up your alley, right?
Yeah.
And we've got other things on the docket, Final Fours, Super Bowls, of course, coming. It really is just an incredible place to work and an incredible place to talk sports, and that's what Sports 1280 is about, and we're very fortunate to be a part of that lineup, and looking forward to our new
Nice. And I mean, with Slab, dude, Slab is he's so tight with all these wrestlers, man. I mean, it's insane. It's incredible. Oh, hey, Nia Jax. Oh, hey, AJ Styles. What's up, man? Shoot. Get him he just has him on speed dial, and especially when they came down here for WrestleMania. I mean, he was just basically taking selfies and taking selfie videos and just randomly. It was amazing. Yeah, it looked really fun. And yeah, it's one of those things where Even though this is now we're an hour closer to our last two days of shows here, starting the foundation of what we've been able to do with Duncan Holder on here on Sports 1280, and being able to take that and be able to take it into the podcast form is going to be a lot of the same things. It's going to be a lot of the same things that people are expecting in terms of what we've been able to bring with Larry, with you, with me, with all the other stuff. We'll bring hopefully a lot of the elements that we've done here specifically with the podcast. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a little condensed, but we're going to have a lot of fun, especially when we start the live pod at NOLA Brewing. That's going to be great. And then, it's like we talked about yesterday, we will continue to hammer at least until Friday. Once we announce, where you're going to be able to find the podcast, how many times you're going to be able to find it, when and where, and how you're going to be able to get and digest it, it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. You're going to be able to find it in a lot of places. So we're not going anywhere that far. And then, of course, we'll still have our social channels where people will still be able to find the pod, the links, any other fun things that we do. Go and listen to light rock bands that don't play that play for 4 hours, but then don't play two staples of the light rock, yacht rock genre, but still okay. I'm sorry, but if you can't
4 hours and
if you can't play sailing, if you don't play Sailing by Christopher Cross, and then you don't play What a Fool Believes by the Doobies, I'm just saying you leave a little bit to be desired. But it was still a great performance. I'm just saying.
Man, you're that guy.
I'm not that guy. I'm just saying this is what I expect.
About not hearing one song.
2 songs actually.
2 songs. You didn't make a request.
They could have played Diamond Girl. I've been okay with that.
I don't think that qualifies.
Yeah, it does. It's Seals and Crofts.
I don't think it qualifies.
All of Seals and Crofts pretty much does.
I don't think so.
Literally all of it does.
All right, let's move on. Let's get some sports talk into this program. And there's some news items that have come across today. What about Reggie Bush? You see that?
Yeah, I did.
Getting 12,
still getting
awarded
money.
$12.5 million from a judge for a fall that he incurred. I guess he slipped on a concrete. I remember that happening. He was a member of the 49ers, I think, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Returned a punt. It was in St. Louis. And he's been awarded a judgment of $12.5 million for an injury he suffered after that happening. And apparently, reading a little more about it, it wasn't the first time that had happened. It actually happened a couple other times. So Reggie Bush getting paid. He's retired and still getting paid.
Still getting money. Still getting loads of money.
Yeah, like
it's
Reggie
amazing.
Needs it.
Now, granted, I would really hate to have that fall because the problem was obviously if you've never seen it, because I'm pretty sure there is a highlight of it at the Edward Jones Dome. Obviously it's a large venue, but around the outside of the playing surface, there's a track, and obviously it's like asphalt, concrete.
It's exposed concrete.
Yeah, it's just exposed concrete. So obviously he ran through. He couldn't obviously stop himself fast enough, and he got to that concrete, and it was almost like being on ice. It had to, which is still strange because you're indoors, you're playing on turf.
That's what I was wondering is why he was wearing. Most guys wear a form of tennis shoes, turf shoes, on artificial surface.
Right.
It's weird that he had cleats on.
And it was almost like he was on ice. He was on ice skates and just slipped, and then eventually fell. And then he couldn't get back up, and he messed his knee all up. But still, $12.5 million settlement. My goodness,
that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for Reggie Bush.
Yeah.
In other news, we haven't really had a chance to talk about the College World Series bracket. College World Series gets going this weekend in Omaha, Nebraska. Oregon State against North Carolina. Bracket 1, Mississippi State takes on Washington. And then in Bracket 2, on Sunday, Arkansas against Texas. David Pierce, former Tulane coach.
Southwest Conference rivalry.
Gets the Longhorns back to the College World Series in his second season. And then Florida against Texas Tech. And I can tell you, Texas Tech, which eliminated my alma mater, Louisville, they are the real deal. Those guys are, that's my dark horse to win this whole thing. They've got a heck of a lineup and a couple of really good pitchers. So that'll get in action later on this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. And before that, though, tomorrow? We get the World Cup. Is the first match tomorrow?
Yes, the first match is tomorrow, with Russia being the host nation for it. They will kick off the festivities tomorrow morning.
Is that how it always works? The host nation plays the first match.
Usually it's the honor that that FIFA grants to FIFA grants to like the host nation. Obviously, one of the things that you do get, which is an interesting thing because that's what they were talking about this morning on TV, was whether or not all three nations in 2026 will get an automatic bid. So if you're the host nation, you get an automatic bid to the World Cup. So will the United States, Mexico, and Canada all get bids? I mean, but at the same time, if it expands 48, it doesn't matter because they'd have been in anyway. But tomorrow at 10 a.m., Russia will take on Saudi Arabia in the opening match of the World Cup. Obviously, the entire World Cup on TV will be on the Fox networks, both Fox, FS1, online, Fox, the Fox app, and things like that. But yes, so Thursday, everything gets kicked off at 10 a.m. and then get ready because I mean Russia is 11 time zones from Los Angeles.
So it's early.
It's going to be early kickoffs. If you go to Friday, you've got Egypt, Uruguay, Morocco, Iran, Portugal, and Spain. Those are the three matches on Friday. That kicks off the first match, which is Egypt and Uruguay, is at 7 a.m.
I won't be watching that.
And then we're not even talking about on Saturday where there are 4 matches. The first match is at 5 a.m. So you're talking about, and they're spaced out. So, and I mean it's tough because you're talking about. So on Friday you're talking about Uruguay. So you're talking about Luis Suarez and company in one of the first games. They're going to be a team to watch. Then you got Spain at 1 p.m. That's going to be huge. Even though Spain just fired their coach, Spain was going to be my pick. Now it's not. We go back with Germany at this point. This is insane. This is insanity.
He took over Real Madrid.
Well, he was going to take over for Real Madrid, but I mean, he was going to go take over one of the most storied franchises in the history of world soccer, especially on the club level.
So
I mean,
why
that's
they fired?
huge. Well, because the Spanish Federation are a bunch of ninnies. They're a bunch of morons because everybody gets all in their feelings whenever they take jobs after. Because I mean, because their former manager. I'm not saying his name. You heard it on the. If you were listening to it, you were listening on the top of the hour sports update. I mean, he's only been the coach for about 2 years, but I mean, he's had a run where he's been unbeaten in his last 16. Spain is one of the heavy favorites to win because they are the best team. Which there was a stat that says, I think I saw this about a month ago. The teams that often win the World Cup are often the teams that don't have 1 or 2 actual stars. They just have to be better teams, and they have to be better, as a group. Spain is one of those teams. Now they don't have a coach. It's going to be weird. But yeah, you've got Argentina, Lionel Messi. That's on Saturday, taking on Iceland. Obviously the darlings of the Euros a couple years ago. You've got France. That's going to be that early match on Saturday. On Sunday, you've got obviously reigning World Cup holders Germany. They'll be going for their 5th. They're taking on Mexico, so obviously that's a little bit of CONCACAF right there. Brazil, also one of the heavy favorites there. They take part, open up a World Cup play on Sunday. And then you're going to have England on Monday against Tunisia. Belgium. I can talk about Belgium for days.
Here's what I would say. If you're going to go watch the World Cup.
Which you should. Watch the World Cup.
I would advise, it's Larry's not here because he's
Thank goodness. We wouldn't have this conversation if he was.
But if you're going to watch it, don't watch it at home. Go out, find a bar in town where you can watch it with other people. Usually what happens around town, and I know Finn McCool's in Mid-City is one of the hubs for soccer. Dick's Kangaroo.
Yeah.
There's
Fat
places
Harry's.
in town. But go out and watch it because more than likely, you're going to encounter expats of those countries watching their country in the sport. Maybe there'll be viewers from both of the countries, and they get into these chants. There's chanting, singing. It's just such a much more enjoyable experience if you're there, kind of experiencing the nationalism that is World Cup, as opposed to just sitting on your couch watching it at home. It's not the same. So I would advise, if you're going to watch it, get out and watch it somewhere in town. There'll be matches on almost all of these sports bars around town. You can find it with a quick Google search, and get out and watch it with some people that are into it, because it really, I think, enhances the experience.
Absolutely, 100%. This is not one of those events where you stay home and watch it, unless you have to, and that's fine too. Just watch it. I mean, you can get a lot of the the pageantry of it from just being able to watch, but it is without a doubt one of the most, if not the most, spectator viewing group events that we have currently outside the Olympics. And I would say this even this jumps over the Olympics, because you got 32 nations all vying for the same thing, all with the same shot, with people who are deeply invested in these teams as much as they're invested in their clubs. It's going to be a huge event. I cannot wait for tomorrow to start. I am likely going to be, having that up while we're in the studio. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. I can't wait to see some of these stadiums. World Cup, man. Get into it. It's going to be beautiful.
All right, we'll carry on this conversation on the other side of this break. We'll also hear from Terran Armstead, Saints left tackle, key player for the New Orleans Saints this year. We'll hear some audio from Terran Armstead out at Saints minicamp. Duncan Holder, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Stay with us. So what, they announced the U.S. Mexico, it's North America got the...
Yeah, I mean, it was announced at 5 a.m.
Oh, I didn't even see that. That's
Yeah.
what you were saying earlier?
Mm-hmm.
They can't keep us out.
Well, I mean, even if they wouldn't have, I mean, if they go to 48 teams anyway, then they would have made it anyway. Because I mean, that means that CONCACAF, instead of getting 3.5 teams in, they're gonna get 4.5 to 5. So if they were to go by that logic this year, because they have one spot that goes to a playoff with a team from Oceania, so from the Oceania region. So that's New Zealand, and Fiji and whatever. That's actually not true. That's actually not true whatsoever. That's a bold faced lie, because there are a lot of people who are, and it's going to be, and once America watches soccer. America watches lots of soccer. Yeah, we do care. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. When people are watching, looking for a soccer ball with a bunch of other people in P-Rogs looking for soccer balls.
With your washboard.
All right.
All right.
Whatever you say, guys. Game played by millions.
We'll do we could do the Armstead thing here. You good to go on that? Okay.
A lot of people enjoy that. I wish we had a talk show here in the city. That at least just about soccer. That'd be awesome. Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure, and there is a need. Well, I mean, I'm still trying to start this podcast with my friend. I think if we do that, it would be, and it would be mostly soccer related, and then pop culture and music related. But I mean, it would be mostly about soccer. Indeed.
You happy, Clyde?
Very much, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is good. It's
Calm
good stuff.
down.
It's good stuff, yeah. Because I had to deal with YouTube jamokes, YouTube jabronis. Oh, no one likes soccer in America. People don't watch soccer in America. It's not one of the highest rated, highest viewed things in America because it's soccer.
Man, you don't want to make fun of our listeners. Yeah.
Yeah, you sound worse. You're lucky I stopped it there.
My God, Clyde is on a rant again. Got a bowl of Krabby Flakes this morning, it sounds like.
Sailing takes me away.
Clydico. The greatest nickname in local sports talk radio. We are going to hear it from Taryn Armstead as opposed to Clyde's leaky voice there.
That's my Mike McDonald, man.
Taryn Armstead had a chance to visit with the local media yesterday at Saints minicamp. It's the first time we had a chance to talk with him. There's a huge crowd around him. Let me just say this before we hear from Taryn Armstead. I don't know what's going on with the local media coverage, but I hadn't been out there in a few days. And I got out there yesterday, and there must have been 100 media reps at this mini camp. I mean, there were people from everywhere. There were people, I usually know most of the regular media corps. I would say, when I say regular, the normal media corps, the local TVs, the local newspapers, the radio representatives. But there were people out there yesterday. I have no idea where these people were from. No idea. And there was dozens of them. I've never seen their faces before. I guess this is just...
Well, you got to realize that, for especially one, I think I know, well, there's at least one guy there for sure who I used to work with back when he used to work in Baton Rouge. Now he works at the station in Lafayette, I believe. For a lot of stations, specifically around the state, obviously they all want to cover the Saints. So this is the last opportunity, and for them, this is really the doldrums of the summer. Because, you're talking about in places like, let's say you're in Lake Charles or Lafayette or Shreveport or Bossier City. The only things you got really going on in your areas are like Little League, like baseball. So for them to come down, they have to make the drive down here for 3 days, get Saints footage, and get enough Saints footage for when the season starts that if they can't come back down here, they at least get to use that in terms of building hype around their networks and saying that they actually have some coverage. So I can understand how maybe like the next 3 days are going to be a little heavier when it comes to media because a lot of these stations, a lot of these radio places can't come back and won't come back for training camp in a month's time because this is the closest they're going to be able to get to having any kind of Saints news and any kind of Saints footage on tape or on video.
But this wasn't that. I know when you have a Lafayette TV station or Lake Charles, I know those people. These were just people without cameras. They were just, I don't know if they're bloggers. I don't know what's going on. There were just a ton of them. We usually have a media room where we have cubicles that we work out of. It was overflow. You couldn't find a spot to work from. That's usually writers, the writing sect as opposed to the TV has the broadcast. They have their own media room. They work out of that. This was just an overflow of human beings in the writing world that I've never seen before. So I'm not complaining, just making an observation more than anything else. But one of the people they did talk to yesterday, as I referenced, was Taryn Armstead, the Saints left tackle, who has had a couple of injury-plagued seasons, is a critical performer for this team. They need a healthy Taryn Armstead this year if they want to make a deep playoff run, and they're counting on it. And Taryn Armstead has told us that he thinks he's going to be healthier than he's ever been this season. He's done some things in the offseason to address that. But let's hear what Taryn Armstead had to say about his health status and where he's at here on day one of minicamp. Yeah, Terran Armstead, clearly the subject of a lot of questions about his health. And as I mentioned, the Saints need him desperately to be healthy this year. But they have some flexibility at tackle. Ryan Ramczyk, the way he played as a rookie a year ago, he's able to flip over to the left side. They also have Andres Pete, who came in to the NFL as a tackle prospect. He's now playing left guard. If they did lose Armstead, I'm sure what they'd probably do is play Ramczyk at left tackle and move Pete to right tackle, and they sub in somebody like Jermon Bushrod, probably the veteran that they brought in from Miami, to play the guard spot. And so they have some flexibility there and some depth, but they don't have anyone as experienced and as athletic as Terran Armstead at the most critical spot in the league. And let's not forget, Clyde, you've got, I'm trying to think of the pass rushers in the NFC South. I know that Jason Pierre-Paul is now a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
You've got Tack McKinley in Atlanta. I think Vic Beasley in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you always have that fearsome kind of Carolina defense as well. You have to protect the quarterback, have to protect Drew Brees. He's only been hurt for one game in his 12-year career here, but you certainly have a little more trepidation if you don't have Armstead at left tackle trying to block some of these great pass rushers in the division.
Well, it's about consistency and continuity, right? I mean, when it comes to something, and when it comes to plays such as that is as intricate as offensive line play is, you've got to be able to have guys that are routinely competent in their positions for obviously longer stretches of time. And obviously, unfortunately for Terran Armstead, is that he has shown flashes and many glimpses of being a quality tackle in the NFL, and a person that the Saints could at least look at trusting for a long term to protect that side of Drew Brees. Now the thing is, specifically going forward, is that now the idea, and clearly at least from just the draft and what they've been able to do in free agency, is there's got to be some contingency plans. They've got to look at getting younger. They've got to look at being able to bring in guys, and then obviously looking at probably rotating some guys from different positions before in college to maybe filtering them throughout the line to see how they handle such repetitions and being able to handle it. Because at this point, and after what we saw last year, whether it was with Zach Strick going down or with Teron dealing with his injuries, that sometimes you can get lucky and you can plug guys in and you can still have that same success, but it's not always guaranteed. And that's why you can tell for him, for Teron, he wants to have a strong, healthy, full 2018 season. I know the Saints would like that for him as well. And if that is the case, I think you look at trying to see how much longer you can get quality play out of him, while also at the same time thinking, well, we also need to make sure that we have someone behind him just in case, because you never know.
Yeah, I was talking to Joe Lombardi yesterday after practice and was asking if Drew Brees would take fewer reps this year in training camp and the preseason because of the presence of these young quarterbacks that had not been in the system. Them wanting to get a long look at those guys, get them as many snaps as possible. But he quickly pointed out that that's not the way Drew Brees works. Drew Brees is one of those guys that wants every rep he can get, even in year whatever he's in now. It's like 17, I think. He wants as many reps as he can. He said what's important for him isn't necessarily that he needs to look at a cover two defense for the millionth time in his life, or that he needs to get more throws in. It's mainly about he wants to see the body language of how Cam Meredith cuts out of a break, or Traquan Smith, the young rookie receiver from Central Florida. He hasn't played with those guys before, so he needs every rep with those guys that he can get.
And you've got to build that trust, that relationship through reps, specifically now through live action, just to be able to know how a guy cuts, how a guy turns, like you said. And the only way you build that is through consistently going through drills again and again and again, to where a player like Drew Brees know those ticks and quirks of how a guy comes off the line and things like that, which is, again, so cerebral, but it's genius.
All right, take a break. When we come back, we'll switch gears, talk a little NBA. We're not going to get on the LeBron James.
We're not going to do that
because
again.
We got into that debate yesterday and ran everybody off. But we will talk a little NBA draft because I got something I want to talk about. And I also want to hear about this Brett McMurphy tease that you made earlier because I'm intrigued about that. Listening to Duncan Holder, Sports 1280. We'll be right back.
And I got such a long way to go, such a long way to go, Mexico.
So what is this Brett McMurphy thing?
So he's broken down. So by 2020, there are going to be a record 43 bowls, including adding 3 more bowls from. One's going to be in Myrtle Beach, one's going to be in Chicago, and one is going to be in. And the other one is not sure, but it might be in Tempe because Arizona. They want another bowl in Arizona. And basically it talks about how the number hopefully is 65% of 130 FBS schools or 84 teams total will be playing in a bowl likely by 2020. But it's interesting the number of bowls going to lower level mid-majors comparatively to let's say like the Big 12. So the Big 12 is going to have 6. Both the American and Conference USA are going to have 7. The Mid-American is going to have 6. The Mountain West is going to have 6. And looking at obviously the huge number of bowls that the ACC is going to have 10, the SC is going to have 10, Big 10 is going to have 8, Pac-12 is going to have 7. So it's interesting to look at this, and then obviously the conversation goes into how are you going to say that there's going to be as many teams making bowls in 2020 for 43 when you can barely fill bowls for 41, which I think is what we had last year.
Okay, well, we'll get into that because I've got some thoughts on this bowl bullshit. They played sailing and put me to sleep.
Such a long way to go.
No, that's not even close to what it sounds like. That's a hard guy to sing.
I know, that's why everybody does it. Because everybody loves doing the Michael McDonald. Okay, we're not in love anymore. Okay, things will never be the same again.
Welcome back. Jeff Duncan, Clad Verdun, Dave DeCorbier, Duncan Holder. Got about 15, 20 more minutes in the show, and we are going to wrap it up with some talk about college football and the NBA. But I wanted to get to the tease that Clyde gave us earlier about Brett McMurphy. Of course, Brett McMurphy, longtime college writer, worked for Sports Illustrated for a number of years, has covered a lot of different things in the SEC for different newspapers. And Brett McMurphy has a little bit of a scoop today about the NCAA adding some content, as we could say, in this day and age. So
Yes, adding
give
content.
our listeners a clue as to what's going on with Brett McMurphy.
So Brett McMurphy, as you stated, has come into the news that at least by the 2020 season, there will be a record 43 bowls, which includes the college football playoff title game, meaning that a record 65% of 130 FBS schools or 84 teams total will play in a bowl.
That's crazy.
Hopefully.
That's crazy.
Possibly. Now the thing is, specifically, they're looking as if there will be 3 new bowls added by that season. One will be in Myrtle Beach, one will be in Chicago, and then there's another to be named later, but there's a possibility that could be in Arizona, maybe either in Tempe, just outside of Phoenix, where they've hosted bowls in the past. But the biggest thing is, obviously, the breakdown. There are 2 things about this report, outside of the fact that there's also going to be a Las Vegas Bowl, where it'll be possibly a Pac-12 team against another Power 5 school, which means it could be against an SEC team. So an SEC team may get lucky enough to be able to go to Vegas and play in this new possibly $2+ billion stadium in Las Vegas that the Raiders are going to eventually build. That could be a nice little boon for that city. But the biggest things for sure from this very, very thorough and thought out post from Brett, because he's doing a lot of stuff on his Facebook page now, is that number one is the maximum bowl tie-ins. So the ACC and the SEC will both lead the way with 10 bids each, the maximum number of bowls that they can get in. Teams from the league can get in. The Big Ten will have 8. The Pac-12 will have 7. The next conferences that will also have 7 will be the American and Conference USA. The Big 12 is only going to have 6. So you're starting to see a little bit of a shift in terms of how conferences are going about trying to get their bowl eligible teams into the postseason. Now, the interesting thing about that also is that the Pac-12 just announced that no 5 and 7 teams will be eligible for bowls from their conference.
Oh, thank you. I don't think 6 and 6 teams should be in a bowl.
Also true.
I mean, there's too many bowls already.
And that was going to be the big question, Jeff, is how much is too much in terms of we've seen bowls come and go. The Weed Eater Bowl, the Popeyes Bahamas Bowl, the Independence Bowl, unfortunately, is always seen as a bowl that's always teetering on the lifeline every year. Because Shreveport usually gets a 6 and 6 or 5 and 7 team from the SEC and from the ACC.
But
how are we going to be able to fill 43 bowls by the 2020 season?
They're half-empty stadiums with no interest, very little TV viewership, and the only reason these bowls we're expanding the bowls is because the TV networks are involved, mainly ESPN, for programming.
Because ESPN owns a good bulk of these bowls.
Correct. And these bowls are basically money grabs. There's guarantees in for the bowls to actually, I think they have to guarantee a certain amount of tickets sold from the institutions to get into the bowl game. And that just basically pays the bowl a certain amount of money, guarantees a bottom line, but most of the people don't go. The university will buy the tickets. They'll buy a block of 25,000 tickets, and 5,000 or 6,000 people will actually go. So you have these half-empty stadiums played in remote locations between 6 and 6 and 7 and 5 teams that nobody cares about. It's horrible. It's just, once again, another, I think, failed decision by college football. What they need to do is expand the playoff, make it a 16-team playoff, like I've said before, open it up to all the Division I conferences, their champions all go. You still have enough for some at-large teams from the major conferences, and then you open it up to the American athletic conferences of the world to be a part of it. And put this cartel that's happened with the Power 5 schools because they want to basically control all of college football. They don't want to compete. They want a country club type setting where they determine who's in the country club, and you can't be in. If you're in the American Athletic Conference, you have to clear all these hurdles. So a school like Central Florida can't compete for a national title, and we have no idea how good they are. Right now, no one knows. You think you know, but you know what? They played Auburn, beat Auburn, who was one of the better schools in the SEC last year, a team that beat Alabama. And yet we have no idea. Everybody wants us to eliminate them from even competing and having a chance to compete in that college football playoff. It's a farce. College football needs to add, I think, a 16-team playoff. They do it in all the other levels of college football. I don't know why they can't do it at the highest level.
Well, the question obviously is, you're already playing a 12-game season as it is, with at least one, if not, I think the 2 bye week is coming back next year or something like that, or is back. I can't remember, but you got bye weeks, you got 12 games, or at least 12 games total. You got X number of conference games that you got to play, so on and so forth. It's already a struggle enough as it is for teams on the lower level, the Group of 5, not outside of the Power 5, to get on the docket, especially when you have conferences like the Big Ten or the ACC or the SEC or whatever saying that they're no longer, you can only schedule so-and-so teams that help or whatever, and all the rest of this kind of stuff, and the FCS and how that's involved. But it does also bring up another bullet point that Brett brings up in his post, is that what, and there's been talk about this too specifically, is that if you're the Group of 5, why wouldn't you talk about having your own kind of round robin or something close to it, or something where your Group of 5 teams would meet in 2 bowls each year that could be paired based on the highest rankings, i.e. 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4, or 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3, or whatever you have. But then it also comes up with the same idea that these bowls that are already tied and contractually obligated to these cities and to the college football bowl lineup, how would you make that work with the current iteration? It's going to be too challenging. It might be too taxing, because you've already got to try to figure out how to get your Group of 5 and or champions to all the bowls that they deserve to be in. But I mean, you're talking about the Sun Belt, you're going to the New Orleans Bowl, or you're going to the Cure Bowl, or the Dollar General Bowl, or if you're the American, you're hoping that your highest your champion is ranked highly in the college football playoff rankings, so they can get that other access to the New Year's Six Bowl like UCF did. And there's just all these loopholes and tie-ins that every school and every athletic department and every conference has to deal with in terms of what is the end result? What are we supposed to be doing here? How do you give these student athletes a chance to go and play in a bowl and be successful? But at the same time, you've got teams who are 5 and 7. You've got teams who are 6 and 6. Do they really want to play in the bowl? And especially some of these teams that loses a coach, something happens. Do they really actually want to go out and do this, or do they just want the season to be over?
Well, I think the kids want to go take a trip. I don't think.
Well, of course they do,
that.
but I think there was some talk last year about, what was it, Florida State, after everything that happened to Florida State with them, and then whether or not they'd be eligible for a bowl because they played. I think they played and took on Florida A&M, and that didn't count, and they were going to have to reschedule a game and all this other kind of stuff. All these things are very weird. They always get tied up at the end of the year when teams and players and all these things happen. I mean, 43 bowls by 2020.
Too many. Way too many. They could cut that in half and not be happy. They don't need all these random bowls that have proliferated over the last few years.
People are getting mad at UCF for calling themselves national champions. Last time I checked, I think we've had multiple teams call themselves national champions that weren't.
Yeah,
so why y'all mad now?
I think Tuscaloosa's the corner of the market on claiming
national
and
they're the ones that the most mad.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, one more break. When we come back, we'll talk a little NBA. Cladico, Dave DeCorbier here. Duncan Holder, Sports 1280. Stay with us. Thank you. Welcome back. Duncan Holder wrapping up hour 2. Got about 5 minutes left in the program, and I know I mentioned that I wanted to talk NBA, but there's one thing that I haven't gotten to in the last couple of days that I wanted to, and it just hopped into my scatterbrain. I'm a little scatterbrain, Clyde. You might be surprised.
Oh, I couldn't. Oh, I haven't.
Surprised to learn
Couldn't
that.
tell.
Yes. So, but if you have not seen out in the social media world or online, if you've not seen the finish to the women's track and field championships in Eugene, Oregon over the weekend, Southern California's women's 4x400 team went into the final event of the NCAA championships on Sunday. They needed to win the women's 4x400 to win the national championship. And if you get a chance, you can go online and just Google it. It will pop up. Trust me. It's one of the most amazing scenes of athletic competition and athletic achievement that I've ever seen. They are so far behind. I won't give it away, but basically the hurdle, that's not the right word because hurdle is going to imply that they actually hurdle.
Yeah.
What they had to overcome to win, and in particular the final leg, Kendall Ellis had the final leg, the final 400 leg. She's so far behind, and to come back and win the way they did, it's incredible. It's an amazing accomplishment, and it'll give you goosebumps. If you don't get goosebumps watching it, because the way the actual event plays out, they're so far behind that basically the announcers calling the race on TV are basically wrote them off. I mean, they did write them off. They said it's over, and then you see Kendall Ellis kick in at the end and make this incredible run. It was like watching a horse race where a closer comes from last in the pack and overcomes right at the wire to win. Just Google it, watch it. Southern Cal women, Kendall Ellis, who I'm sure is a very popular lady today, last few days, I'm sure, in the social media world, because that was an amazing event. And as a matter of fact, I was talking to Sean Payton about it yesterday after practice, and he's going to show that clip to his team because he thinks it's a perfect example of perseverance, of never giving up, just a great example for his players to see what it takes to win a championship. And I can't imagine anyone being more exhilarated than Southern Cal women, because that was an unbelievable finish to an unbelievable race.
Is the essence of what sports is about. I mean, obviously it went viral as soon as it hit Twitter on Saturday night. Obviously, it's the NCAA championship meet in Eugene, Oregon, at the University of Oregon. The 4x4 is the last race for a reason. It is one of the most exciting races in all of track and field. So it had everything you needed. It had drama. It had excitement. It had and it had an unbelievable finish. You would do way worse today than finding the 4 minutes. The 4 minutes of video of the USC women's track team winning a national championship with the most unlikely odds.
They had to win it.
They had to win
the race to win the national title.
Yeah, literally, the national championship was on the line. They don't win the national championship.
I think they ended up winning by 1 point over Georgia.
Yeah.
So the other side of that is, what were the Georgia was not competing in that race. They did not have a
they didn't have a dog in the race.
So they were watching it. They had to just be crushed, because I'm sure as they watch this play out, they're thinking, we're getting ready to win the national title, the team title. Mm-hmm. And then to see...
And then you're literally watching it just, what, no, and then she crossed the finish line, and then at that point, because the finish is the way it is, and if you don't, and if you don't follow track that closely, at the finish line, there are... And I speak from experience. I have a friend who works and does this for a living. There are 2 cameras at the finish line that are specifically there for, and a laser, I believe it's a laser, that is strictly there to break ties, to know who crossed that line first. I mean, it is incredible. I mean, down to the millisecond, it is an incredible thing. I'm sure they had to use it and go back again to make sure, but I mean, it was an incredible finish, an incredibly fantastic sports moment of the year. I mean, that's going to be a thing. I mean, if it's going to be an ESPY winner, then there's something wrong with the ESPYs. But it is definitely one of the sports highlights of 2018 so far.
No doubt about it. And Google it, find it online because it's pretty spectacular footage and really.
I'm going to retweet that from the Dunc Holder Twitter account.
Goosebump moment for Southern Cal and just anybody that loves athletic competition. And look, we'll be moving on tomorrow. Trying to put together a lineup tomorrow, Clyde, but I want to talk a little more World Cup. I know that's shocking to probably our cohort in crime,
Can't wait.
Larry Holder, but we're going to talk a little World Cup soccer tomorrow. We'll also wrap up preview day 3 of minicamp with the Saints, and we will talk a little NBA draft, a Louisiana flavor to this year's NBA draft with Mitchell Robinson from Charlotte High School, Melvin Frazier from Tulane, and Reggie Evans from Cincinnati, who is a Baton Rouge native. All 3 could go in the first round of the NBA draft, which will be a week from tomorrow, right? It's next Thursday?
Yes, it's the 22nd.
Right, so next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. Also, we'll have some information on how you can bid in an auction for a day with Duncan Holder. That's something that's just come up here in the last hour. A day, what better way to spend your life than shadowing Larry, myself, and Clyde on the Duncan Holder program.
That's one way to put it.
So I will give you that information. Stay tuned for that tomorrow on Duncan Holder. But that'll do it for today's show. I want to thank Sean Fazan. I want to thank our cohort in crime, Larry Holder. He had the screen grab, the goofy screen grab. And if you missed the program, you can always find it on iHeartRadio on the website there. We'll have the podcast up a little bit later today, and also at NOLA.com. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder signing off. Have a great Wednesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Yeah, I got to get that on tomorrow. That Leukemia Society has the charity has an auction item for a day with Duncan Holder.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.